Oh, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for watching my video. I haven't made a video in a while, in quite a while, because my phone has been having some technical issues. So, but I could still do it. It's just inconvenient. So I decided just to go ahead and do it again because I have a lot of things to say. So I just need to get it. I just need to get it out of my system, I guess. But hopefully, I'll keep making videos because I think it's important for people to speak. All of us, not just me. And God knows, I don't believe it's important for just the professionals to speak. I mean, I think it's important for us to have professionals, and I think it's important for us to listen to what they have to say. But I don't think that I also think it's important for us to for people who are not professionals to have a voice and to have a platform, right? So I know that I'm going to be rusty because it's been a while, and all the things that I thought I had to say have completely left my mind. I can't remember what they were now, so it's going to be kind of a slog. It might be kind of a slog here. And I'm concerned about all the technical issues here. I don't even know if this thing is recording. If it is, there's bad glare. So I guess I need to change my path of travel maybe. Or maybe there won't be a glare when the video comes out. I'm not sure. But right now there's a really bad glare as I drive and look at the screen. So there's kind of a lot been going on with me. My fiance broke up with me, and which really broke my heart. But I landed in a really great spot. I have a beautiful apartment, the most beautiful apartment I've ever had. I'm way up high. You know, I watch the birds fly by, and they're below me. I get to watch the most amazing sunrises when they come up, and I can see all the way from Clearwater to Tampa. I can see all the way from Clearwater Beach to Tampa and St. Petersburg. I can see the skylines of Tampa and the skyline of St. Petersburg, and I can see the silhouette of Tropicana Field, all from my apartment. So I even get to see some of the sunset, even though my apartment is facing east. There's a north window, or is it north or south? South. There's a south, actually two south-facing windows, and from those windows I can see the sunset, at least part of it. So it's really nice. It's really nice. I am also enjoying watching the sun rise because the sun is rising to the, is it the north or the south? It's rising to the south. Right. It's rising to the south, which means we're in the winter. That's the Tropic of Capricorn down south of the equator, and the Tropic of Cancer is north of the equator. So I believe when it's our summer, the sun will be rising more towards the north, or depending upon which way my apartment is facing. In an absolute sense, it might be more directly straight out my window as opposed to the south. I'm not sure how that will all play out, but you know, I been learning a lot about flat Earth and heliocentrism. And when you learn a lot about flat Earth with this geocentrism, when you learn a lot about geocentrism, by default, you learn a lot about heliocentrism, which is 99.9% chance of what you believe, and it's also 99.9% chance is the only thing you know. So because that's the way we all are raised. We're raised to only know one point of view, and then so when you only know one point of view, and then you claim that to be what you believe, then you know, I think hopefully you will agree with me that the word believe in that sense is really quite meaningless because it's the only thing you know. So what else could you possibly believe? Obviously, if it's all you know, then you believe it, right? So that's why I like learning divergent points of view, because then when you say you believe this point of view or you believe that point of view, it actually means something to say that I believe it, you know? So that's why I'm constantly on the lookout for different points of view about everything, not just cosmology, but, you know, basically everything. Cosmology, theology, medicine, you know, the physical sciences with respect to, like energy, the generation of energy, and I mean, everything, literally everything, literature, I mean, everything. The story, the biographies of people's lives, the stories of culture, the story of our culture, I mean, just anything and everything. As many points of view as possible, so when you say this is what I believe, it actually means something. Because again, I apologize for repeating myself. Like I said, I'm rusty, but because again, if you only know one point of view, then it's kind of redundant to say, this is what I believe, right? I mean, of course you believe it. It's all you know. So, all right, so there's that. Now, I guess what, I'll tell you about my morning. They kicked me out of my church because I got upset about the masks one day because, I go all over. Pinellas County has a wear your mask thing. Whatever it's called, ordinance or whatever. But here's the thing. There is no penalty for non-compliance, right? So it's kind of like double speak. It's a little bit Orwellian, like you must wear a mask, but if you don't want to, there's no penalty. So it's all very weird. The whole thing is super weird. So anyway, long story short, I haven't worn a mask for a single solitary nanosecond ever. For nothing. Well, when I went to get a drug test for my job, it was kind of a big blow up. That was a blow up. They called not the lab, but one of the people inside the thing called the police, and the police came, and it was very cordial conversation, and everything was all right and good, and blah blah blah. And so I just held a mask over my face. I mean, for like 30 seconds. So that's about the extent of my mask thing. And like I said, it wasn't even the lab. It was just some random person sitting there that called the police. And, I was telling the lab, call the police, because I know there's no penalty. So go ahead, call the police. Get the police out here. We'll talk about it, But at church, for whatever reason, they have decided to be complete Nazis. And like I always tell people, there's a bunch of communists running that church. I'm saying it tongue in cheek, but I have people tell me the same thing. And they don't say it tongue in cheek, and in the spirit of fairness and full transparency. They also don't use the word communist. But a guy said to me one time, I was at a party and blah blah blah. I don't know what we were talking about, something, and then I ended up telling him what church I go to. He goes, "Oh yeah, I've been there once." I'm like, "Oh okay, cool." He goes, I said, "What did you think?" He said, "Oh yeah, it was all right." I said, "Well, are you going back?" He said, "No." I said, "Oh, okay." I said, "Well, why not?" And he started like, I have a little bit of social anxiety. Sometimes I have a lot of social anxiety. I need to work on that. And I have plans to work on it. The problem is when you have social anxiety, like working on that is really hard. I mean, it's hard to get yourself up and out and doing it. But anyway, I have big plans to work on that and completely solve that problem in spades, as they say, in spades. But that's my plan. So I said, "Why not?" And he got like awkward, and I felt bad. I'm like, "Oh man, I just asked a inappropriate question. Like I made the guy feel awkward, and I felt bad that he was acting so awkward." But then finally, after whatever, a few seconds or whatever, because, with anxiety, it doesn't take a long time. It's just like, boom, instantaneously, right? Like sub-second, you can go from feeling perfectly natural and comfortable to overwhelmingly anxious, like sub-seconds, right? If you have anxiety, you know what I'm talking about. So a few seconds or whatever, he gathered himself or whatever. He said, "Well, I just don't want to have to go somewhere and sit and listen to a bunch of Democrat Party doctrine trash, whatever, something of a relatively negative, pejorative nature, like that. It wasn't those exact words, but it was like that, right? And so there's that. And then I have another friend who's not conservative at all. He said to me, something like, he's like, "Dude, your preacher is like a New World Order preacher." And I was like, "Well," I said, "Yeah, I guess I never really looked at it like that." And God only knows why, because I mean, I'm totally friendly to the whole New World Order type of a conversation. A lot of people aren't. They think the New World Order phrase, they think that phrase is like a conspiracy theory They think that phrase is a phrase that only a conspiracy theorist would use, you know. I mean, George H.W. Bush got up in front of the entire world and said we have a new world order. I mean, you know, but still, people think what they think, and they get things stuck in their head, and they don't care. I mean, it's just whatever gets stuck in their head, that's what they think, you know. So what was I talking about? So I like I said, I'm rusty. It's hard to keep your train of thought sometimes. The masks. Okay, so they're going full communist. They're going full dictatorship. They're going full Nazi on the mask thing. And, like, they don't care. They don't care what you have to say about it. I mean, they literally don't care. They're just like, they're like goons. Like, these three guys were standing out there with their mask on, and all I could think of was like like a scene from a George Orwell book with these masked goons, just like not listening, not caring, and just saying, this is what you're going to do, you know? And obviously you're restricting oxygen. It's a medical, measure that they're forcing people to impose on themselves, just because they say so, you know? I go all over the county, everywhere. I go everywhere. No mask, no mask, no mask. No mask, no problem. No mask, no problem. No mask, no problem. I went to the driver's license bureau. You know, they got a security guard standing out there with a gun. You know, I'm like, oh my gosh, I know for sure I'm going to have a problem here. Nope. Boom, 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 in, out. I mean, I was in and out of that thing, a brand new driver's license, new photograph, new everything. Like 4 minutes. It was unbelievable. It was just an unbelievable experience. All the jokes people tell about the DMV. I mean, it was just amazing. I was in and out so fast. But, so, you know, I got a little bit upset, you know, and I raised my voice. And, then they started accusing me of violence. They started accusing me of divisive behavior, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, I'm just, you know, the issue is, and I can't remember the exact quote, but it's a C.S. Lewis quote where C.S. Lewis says something like, if you're going to do evil, you know, humans are, they have a governor on the amount of evil that they can do, because the governor is their conscience, and you can prick your conscience and prick your conscience and prick your conscience. And yes, your conscience will grow numb such that it no longer responds to pricks anymore. But nevertheless, in spite of that fact, the governor is that eventually your conscience is going to rise up and say, okay, no more of this. I can't take any more of the evil that you're doing. So, and again, this is an extreme paraphrase of what C.S. Lewis said. And what he said was that, and then he went on to say, however, with socialism, right, that governor is not present because the socialists actually believe they're doing good, right? So they go to bed at night feeling reassured. In other words, they go to bed at night being encouraged to wake up the next day and do more evil, even more than the day before, because the evil they did yesterday made them feel good about themselves because they convinced themselves, or they've been convinced, that the evil they're doing is actually good. And there's a great verse in Isaiah. I don't remember the exact chapter and verse, but I'm sure you can Google it and find out. But it says something like, woe to them who put light for darkness, sweet for bitter, and good for evil. So it's inversion. The concept at play here is inversion, right? Where you call something the opposite of what it is. And if you go online and you type in 2 words in a search engine, I don't ever use Google, ever. I never use Google. I use DuckDuckGo, and you try to be slick and get away from the big companies like this, but you know, you never know what's going on in the background. DuckDuckGo might be using Google in the background. I have no idea. But anyway, you do what you can, you know. So I use DuckDuckGo, and if you type in 2 words in any search engine, I don't think it matters which one, Bing, Yahoo Search, Google, DuckDuckGo, I don't really think it matters which one. 2 words, inversion, occult. It'll be like, you know, 3 million results in 0.7 seconds or something like that. The occult is all about inversion, putting sweet for bitter, dark for light, evil for good. Okay? The reason I believe, my interpretation is, the reason I believe is because you cannot do great evil if you call evil evil. Even within your own mind, even within your own heart. So the inversion has to start internally. Okay? So when an evil person says, like that old joke, I'm from the government and I'm here to help you, right? That's an example. It's a joke, and it's a joke that's playing on the theme or the concept of inversion. Obviously, people know that if somebody from the government is coming to your house, they're not there to help you. You know, it's like something bad is about to happen to you. You know, so that's an example of inversion. So it has to begin internally, so that you can go to bed at night and rest well without your conscience bothering you. And as a matter of fact, if you can do it one better than that, not only does your conscience not bother you, but your conscience rewards you. It affirms you. It encourages you to do more evil the next day than you did the day before. The trick being that it doesn't call evil evil. It calls evil good, and that's the inversion. So everything is internal. With evil, everything is internal deception. So the goal of the, if you want to call them the occultist, but essentially it's not the government, it's just evil people in the government, you know, and evil people are in everything, you know, evil is a very weak power in the world. I mean, the people that you see doing evil on the news, it's like 1/10 of 1% of the population. I mean, it's an incredibly small number of people. So generally speaking, evil is not a problem until an evil person gets power. Until an evil person achieves a status and a title and a position of power, then they have the power. But even when you get an evil person in power, evil is such an overwhelmingly weak force that they have to be excruciatingly careful about how they perform their evil, even from that position of power. And that's where the compartmentalization comes in. That's where the institutionalization, because you can't have compartmentalization without institutionalizing everything. And if you don't know what compartmentalizing is basically you take a task, any task, and you break it up into pieces, and you give this guy a piece, that lady a piece, that guy a piece, that lady a piece, and everybody has their own little piece, and nobody else really knows what anybody else's piece is, and if they do know, they don't really know how the pieces fit together. So nobody except 2 or 3 people at the very top have a big picture of what's actually going on. Everybody's just doing a job, and everybody's getting a paycheck, so nobody's asking any real questions. Because when you have a job and they're paying you to do your job, you just do your job, you keep your head down, and you get your paycheck at the end of the week, and you say, thank you very much. Did I do a good job this week? Would you like me to do anything different next week? I mean, that's how it works. Everybody knows that, right? And everybody does that to one degree or another. What was I saying? Okay, so I apologize. Like I said, I'm rusty here. All right. So the masks. The First Baptist Church, St. Petersburg, going full Nazi, full communist, full totalitarian, over and above what the county does, over and above, like ridiculous, like psychotic control freak. Like if you're not wearing a mask, you're guaranteed to get corona, you know, and then they go around quoting the CDC, but only when the CDC says what they want them to say. You see, that's the thing about control freaks. Control freaks will quote the authorities as a measure of gaining power over you, but only when the authorities say what they need them to say in order to exert power over you. So you have 50 doctors, you know, and if you get 50 doctors talking about any given subject, you know, and provided that the doctors are not all on the same payroll of the same institution, which sometimes can be tough because medicine is a highly centralized institution. But if you get 50 independently minded doctors and talking about any given subject, you're going to get a minimum, an absolute minimum of 5 different opinions. You know, so you say it probably won't be 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. It probably won't work out even like that. But let's just say it is, for the sake of argument. You know, you get a control freak who's going to quote these 10 doctors, but they're going to ignore what those other 10 doctors say. And if you try to bring up what those other 10 doctors say, they're going to fire back at you with emotion and redness of face and strain of voice. Right? And they're going to say, but. See? So what I mean is, with respect to the CDC, is that the CDC says, yes, you have to wear a mask, but nothing they say is enforceable. Nothing they say is just a recommendation. Nothing they say has any force of law whatsoever, because laws are made by legislatures, not agencies, not recommendation panels, not county commissioners. You know, laws are made by legislators. So none of it's enforceable. It's just a recommendation. Most people don't know that the CDC is like the Federal Reserve. They're a private for-profit corporation that masquerades as a government agency. And how they masquerade is a whole nother thing. It's not that hard to understand, but it takes a little while to explain, so I'll just skip it now. But they're private and they're a private for-profit corporation, by the way, that holds patents on things, different types of medicine, like, for example, vaccines. Now, medical patents are extremely expensive to achieve. I mean, just think about yourself. You want to get a patent on something silly. You wouldn't know where to begin. Now, think of getting a patent on a chemical, you know, or a patent on something that you're going to be injecting into conceivably thousands or millions of people's bodies. I mean, that's extremely, that's an extremely expensive undertaking to get a patent on something like that. So they hold these patents, and they want to turn these patents into profits. So they have a financial interest in making sure they find a use for these vaccines. The best way to get people to buy a vaccine is to scare them, right? I mean, that's logical, right? I mean, you're never going to get somebody to take a vaccine if they're not scared of whatever the vaccine is supposed to cure, supposedly, right? So that's what the CDC says. And like I said, the control freaks at my church, they quote the CDC, but only when the CDC says what they want them to say. So they don't quote the CDC when the CDC says that 85% of people who get coronavirus, wear masks all the time. That's 70%. And wear masks most of the time. That's 14%. So the masks do nothing, but they don't care. Now, here's the thing. I don't really care if they want to say where. I mean, I don't really care. I mean, I do. I mean, the masks are definitely a flashpoint for me, right? But I mean, that's not the real thing. That's the real thing, but it's not the real thing. The real thing, my passion, I guess you might say, is for a diversity of discourse. My passion is for a diversity of discourse. If the mainstream culture is all hyped up about terrorists, then, I don't want to go to church and hear a bunch of people that are all hyped up about terrorists. And if the mainstream culture is all hyped up about school shooters, then I don't want to go to church and hear a bunch of people that are all hyped up about school shooters. And if the mainstream culture is all hyped up about some pandemic, supposedly pandemic, then, I don't want to go to church and hear a bunch of, because whatever mainstream culture is saying is a lie. I mean, we all know this. Whatever they're saying on the news, it's some kind of manufactured, distorted narrative. I mean, something is up. I mean, if they want to mention it, fine, but it's like we're going to change our policies because of what they're saying on the news. I mean, it's where, no, I mean, we're supposed to be advocating for the Word of God, not advocating for the doctrines and the dogmas of Caesar, right? Which is what you get when you turn on the news. You get the doctrines and the dogmas of Caesar. And at the moment, Caesar's all hyped up about some supposed pandemic. I mean, it has the same death rate as the flu. But, when we've had SARS, we've had what's that other one? MERS or whatever. We've had Zika. We have had Ebola, and we've had about 10 of them. I can't even remember. I mean, it's just, the whole thing is just crazy, man. It's crazy. Not only that, but they opened the church on November the 1st, like the Sunday before the election. I mean, everybody in the world is running around saying that this is political. And so what do? They open up the church the Sunday before the election. It's like, this is just like too much. It's just too much, man. It's like, this is like crazy Caesar worship. This is like lunatic level Caesar worship. So I make a big stink, and then I get this thing that I'm trespassed because I made a big stink, and they accuse me of violence and being divisive. Well, I take that as a big compliment, because I don't know the exact quote from the Bible, but it's something like, consider it pure joy when people falsely say things about you and slander you. And slander was another thing that they accused me of because of videos like this. Supposedly this is slander. Supposedly when a free man speaks his mind freely on a platform that is made for people to speak their minds on, and it's not complimentary to Dr. Money, supposedly that's slander, okay? But they can lie about me, and that's not slander or something. They can accuse me of slander when it's not slander. They can accuse me of violence when there was no violence. They can accuse me of being divisive when being divisive, according to Scripture, is a virtue, because the Bible says the Word of God divides marrow from bone, or muscle from bone, or something like that. And Jesus specifically said that he was going to divide the sheep from the goats, the wheat from the chaff. I mean, it goes on and on and on and on. This divisive thing, this doctrine of divisiveness being evil is like a doctrine of our times. It's like a doctrine of the gender chimeras, in my mind. And if you don't know what a chimera is, think about the old Egyptian hieroglyphs where you had like a man with a bird's head, or you had a dog or a lion with a bear's head or something. And then, you got Greek mythology. You had the, I don't remember what they're called, but they're the men that are half horse and half man, and eagles that are half eagles and half lions. I mean, the chimera thing is all throughout history, and, whatever. And in Japan, they have kittens that glow at night because they've merged the DNA of a bioluminescent algae, or maybe from the ocean, bioluminescent jellyfish or something like that. They've merged the DNA of these bioluminescent organisms with the kittens, or with the cats, and the cats have these kittens, and the kittens glow in the dark. It's either kittens or monkeys, but I think it's kittens. So they're playing around, all right? They're playing around with the whole chimera thing on a massive scale, but it's all hush-hush on the down low, but every now and then a little piece of it pops up into pop culture. But again, they've been doing this they've done it all throughout history. Well, back to the Egyptians, back to the Greeks, and then, I'm sure even beyond that as well. So the gender chimera is when you got like a half man or a half woman, or you got a man who has the spirit of a woman, or you have a woman who has the spirit of a man. Now, if it's natural and it's organic and that's just their personality, then that's okay. I mean, obviously, what? I mean, who can say anything about that? Not me. I mean, that's just the way you are. That's the way you are. But if it's being artificially manufactured or artificially brought to bear through science, through social engineering, through genetic modification, through chemicals in the water, chemicals in the medicine, chemicals in the food, chemicals in GMO, like literally in the food at the DNA level. If that is the case, and I'm not saying that it is, but I'm saying if that is the case, then there's a problem with then I have a problem with that. I have a problem with humans imposing their will on other humans for the sake of folly or for the sake of power. Okay? And that's all this mask thing is. It's an exercise in power. And see, when this whole mask thing came about, Fauci, everybody was saying, don't wear masks. Don't wear masks. But then people started loving the masks. They fell in love with the masks because it made them feel like they're doing something. And then Fauci is like, okay, fine, whatever, wear a mask. I guess you should wear a mask. I mean, they completely did a 180, not because there's any science to support it, but because people fell in love with the idea, because it made them feel safe or something. But really, it hurts you. It hurts us, or it doesn't hurt me. I don't wear a mask. It hurts you, and you can go listen to the doctors who say that it does. Instead of listening to the fake doctors, like Dr. Money and John Rice and everybody else, all the other Nazis, control-freak communists down there, who are cherry-picking scientific data and then acting as if they are scientists to tell you and me what we have to do to be quote-unquote safe. And that's where the whole C.S. Lewis thing is. See, when they have a theoretical, even if it's fake, it doesn't matter, theoretical moral cause, oh man, 30 minutes already? This thing usually stops at 30 minutes. All right, I'm going to stop here and start a new one.